At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce to you today's guest speaker, Major General Thomas Carden, Jr., the Adjutant General of Georgia. Major General Carden was appointed by Governor Kemp in January 2019 as the 43rd Adjutant General of the Georgia Department of Defense. He is responsible for directing, coordinating, organizing, and stationing the Army and Air National Guard of the state of Georgia, the Georgia State Department of Defense Force, and the federal and state civilians, ensuring their readiness to perform state and national missions. In 1986, Major General Carden enlisted in the Georgia Army National Guard as an infantryman. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant in August of 1989 after completing Officer Candidate School. His military education includes the Infantry Officer Basic Course, Infantry Officer Advanced Course, the Combined Armed Services Staff College, and Army War College. Major General Carden has held a number of key positions in the Army and Georgia Army National Guard. Most recently, he serves as the Deputy Commanding General of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization's Multinational Division, Southeast Romania. Major General Carden previously served as the Georgia Army National Guard Commanding General, Chief of Staff, Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations, and the Deputy Chief for Personnel. Please welcome Major General Thomas Carden, Jr.
Well, good morning, everybody. Of all of our previously recognized distinguished guests, especially any family members, if you're a family member, raise your hand. Let us recognize you. Hey, thanks for being here today. We appreciate y'all coming. You know, those of us in uniform can't pump gas or buy groceries without somebody coming up and saying, hey, thanks for your service, but we don't often get an opportunity to thank our family members, and I think it's pretty cool that you all took the time to be intentional and to come here and help celebrate the success of your brand new recruiter, but also 161 new recruiters across the Army National Guard. I can't tell you how humbled I am just to be in the same room with all of you today. You know, it's not lost on me. You can't turn your television on or your radio, read the paper, or God forbid, turn on the InstaFlash and My Page and Face Page and all that stuff, and somebody's going to tell you what's wrong with America. And every day, I get to be surrounded with what's right about America. What's in this room today is absolutely what's right about this country, and don't ever take it for granted. I know I don't take it for granted that I get to be here with you. Those who have invested in you over the last 5 weeks, thank you for everything that you have done to set up the recruiters for success. And Colonel Cherry, who's the commandant out here, is also, I'm very proud that she's a Georgia Guardsman. Colonel Cherry, thank you, and Command Sergeant Major Snow, for what you all do across the Army National Guard to make our force more ready and more capable to meet the challenges of not only today, but well into the future. So let's give the Professional Education Center a hand. So, hey, look, it's my job here for the next few minutes to keep you semi-conscious, right, until we pin those recruiting badges on you. And perhaps at the end, we sing the Army song when this thing's over with. We don't play it, we sing it, right? You don't sing the Army song? All right, we got to work on that. All right, but we're going to keep you conscious until we pin the badge on you. So by show of hands here, you know, I want this to be a little bit interactive since it's my job to keep you awake. So how many of you applied or requested to become a recruiter? Raise your hand. All right. If you're a conscript in Army Guard recruiting, right, you got voluntold, you got made to go to recruiting, you opened your inbox one day and a set of orders appeared. Raise your hand. We got one. Okay, all right. Two. Okay, so you're the outlier, so this might not apply to you, but about 99.99% of the recruiters in the Army National Guard, you applied and requested to become a recruiter. And that is what's sort of unique about our model as compared to, say, your active duty counterparts that are in the recruiting profession. And I make this point with respect to the differences in the model, in that, you know, no orders magically appeared in your box with rare exception. You're not a victim. Right? You will see as you get into this business that it's very easy, right? It's peaks and valleys. It's very easy to become a victim when you're in the valley. But it's hard to truly identify that way if you know that you're in the profession that you signed up to be a part of. That makes you special and it makes you different than really anybody else in the recruiting profession. You just don't see anybody do it the way the Guard does it. And so when recruiters in the state of Georgia have a hard time recruiting, I always remind them, hey, look, this is the profession that you signed up to do, right? So if you're a recruiter, right, and you find yourself in a position where you might not be recruiting, right, at the rate that you need to, right, don't go down that road. Don't go down that road. This is a business that requires aggressive optimism every single day, and in the face of adversity, you all are going to have to perform. And your job is harder and more accountable than anybody else in your organization that puts on a uniform. And I say that as a soldier who served as a recruiting and retention battalion commander in the state of Georgia. I can tell you the world that I grew up in recruiting when I was a battalion commander, there was no such thing as HMS Genesis, right? Taco Bell was not providing money for college when I was in this business. Now, you all, again, so you know, I know, right? Humans do not like being told no. Every one of you that are going into this business are going to be told no more than once every single day in this profession. Humans don't like no because it's analogous to rejection. Humans don't like rejections. You have a hard job. It's an accountable job, and in my mind, it's the most important job in the Army National Guard today. And I'm not saying this because I'm in a room full of recruiters. I'd say this if I was in a room full of operators, right? Because you can't train or deploy a vacancy. It can't be done. That's how important your job is. And you are going into a set of headwinds as you take your positions across the Army National Guard in recruiting and retention. You're coming into a time when it's never been harder to be a recruiter. Again, it goes back to some of the narratives that's being set in popular culture today that you're going to have to literally fight against every single day to help make sure that you open the doors of opportunity to men and women that desperately need what you have to offer. The good news is you got a great product. So I want to go back almost now 37 years. My recruiter. Every soldier's got a story. I got mine, you got yours. And I recommend you tell your story to those that you're going to be talking to about options in the Army National Guard. So about 37 years ago, Sergeant First Class Kenneth Bryant, right? Yes, I remember my recruiter's name, and most of you probably remember your recruiter's name too. So I was flat broke. I call it no carb broke. I grew up on a peanut farm in South Georgia, and we went broke. No carb broke, and people are like, where's that? It's about 100 yards from no roof over your head broke. And Sergeant First Class Kenneth Bryant came to my high school and gave the ASVAB. Again, Taco Bell wasn't trying to give me money to go to school. Nobody was staffing no proposals to pay off my student loans. But Sergeant First Class Bryant showed up with an option that would allow me to go to school. And so, quite frankly, I'd love to tell you I was a great patriot, and I just wanted to do it for Mom, apple pie, and the United States of America. Hey, look, I was hungry, and I was broke, and I wanted an option, and that's the truth. And I joined as a private, not like some of you will be putting some of these kids in. I see them come back, I rarely see a PVT anymore, right? If the uniform, that I was in was like ours, it'd been fuzzy. I started right at the bottom. And that's the beauty of the product that you're putting in front of young men and women, right? This organization is an elevator for young men and women that literally changes their lives. You think you're a recruiter because we call you a recruiter. But I'm telling you, your job title would better be described as a life changer. You all have the potential to change so many lives. I look back now over the last 37 years and I wonder sometimes what it would have been like. Right? If Sergeant First Class Bryant, if I'd not met him, if I'd not come in contact with him, if he had not talked to me about the options available in the Army National Guard, I shudder to think about what I might be doing today, about what my life may be like today. And I guarantee you, with 161 recruiters and some of the folks sitting around on the periphery here from different states and different walks of life, probably have a very similar story about how their recruiter changed their life for the better. So I'm super proud of every one of you. Now, I do have a name, But at the end of the day, I was a +1 for Sergeant First Class Bryant. And you're going to hear this, right? You're going to hear this from some of the folks that maybe not be looking at this the right way. Is all the leadership cares about is numbers. Right? All the leadership cares about is numbers. You heard that already somewhere before, I bet. You probably said it yourself. Right? I'll stop worrying about numbers as soon as I can deploy a vacancy. So I unashamedly, right, I look at the scoreboard every single day because China's looking at the scoreboard, Russia's looking at the scoreboard, our adversaries are looking at the scoreboard. So yes, those numbers flat matter, but there's a human being behind every one of those numbers that we all care deeply about, and we're going to invest in their success and make sure that the leadership factory and the potential factory that is the Army National Guard aligns them to go as far as they can possibly go in their career. And so when you look around at Taco Bell and, Buc-ee's and some of these other places, just fast food places that are offering money for college, you even look at some of your more high-end businesses like Amazon and you name it, Home Depot, some of these, they're all great companies. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing. They're great companies and they're trying to make a living, and I'm glad they're doing it. I shop at some of those places myself. But the average business in the United States invests about $1,000 a year in employee training. We invest tens of thousands of dollars every single year in every member of the Army National Guard. And those investments are really aligning them to get to a higher level of potential, again, to get after their full potential, whatever that is. And I hope that one day, right, that somebody that you recruit, more than one of them, will be standing on this stage saying your name, your legacy, your contribution, right, not only to the Army National Guard, but to making that individual, yes, +1, right, nothing evil about that, right, it's actually a good thing, is how you're +1 in your formations, right, how you change their life. That's what you have the potential to do as you go out and take your places in our formations as recruiters. Now, there's obviously a lot of caution that I will give you with respect to being a recruiter. You may not believe this, but every one of you, when you step out of here today and go take your position as a recruiter, you're going to have more autonomy, right, than I can even imagine. I mean, I'm a 2-star general. I've been doing this since I was a senior in high school. But I can tell you right now, I don't ever go anywhere where I'm not observed. I really don't ever have a conversation that I don't automatically assume that's being recorded and will be available for public consumption. All right? As a recruiter, you're going to have a GSA card, most of you. You're going to have a gas card for that GSA, and you're going to be setting your own schedule. It takes a special leader, a special soldier to be able to manage that sort of autonomy. And you got to be able to do some basic math. How many people do I need to talk to get to yes? 2/3 of the people sitting in this room today, the first time a recruiter talked to you about joining, you were a hard no. There's a lot of statistical data out there that shows that most of you in this room, vast majority, were hard no's the first time somebody talked to you about joining. And then you got to figure out how many of them I have to talk to and get to say yes, and how many of them I have to get to MEPS, how many I have to send that come out the other end where I'm getting that +1. And then how many do I have to get on the bus, and then how many of them are going to complete training until somebody actually ends up in a formation, right, that kind of makes our adversary think twice about taking on the United States of America. I mean, that is what you're doing every day, and that's in addition to changing lives. So a super profession, but you're managing your own schedule, and you're going to do so without a whole lot of hand-holding. And I can tell you, just from having observed this myself, I would recommend that you never go anywhere when you don't think about branding your profession. Right? I go very few places when I'm not wearing a T-shirt, a golf shirt, a bumper sticker, you name it, a coffee cup. I brand the National Guard. I believe in what we're doing. And people will ask me about those things, and it will be a conversation starter, right? If I see a recruiter show up for something and say there's 100 people standing over here, that half of them of which are in the recruitable age range, right? And I see recruiters standing over here, you know, it kind of sometimes reminds me of those junior high school dances, right? Where you got some boys standing on the wall over here and some girls standing on the wall over here, and you kind of want to say, hey, let me introduce you to somebody. You know, I've actually done that with our recruiters in our state. It's like, hey, recruiters, here are the humans. Hey, humans, here are the recruiters. Right? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, right? Be aggressive and be optimistic and engage. Be ready to take that no, right? And be ready to shake it off and be ready to look yourself in the mirror every single day and be ready to get up and do it again. And it's not going to be easy. And we believe, right? I believe personally, because I've seen it time and time again, that you've been given the tools, right? You're leaving here today with the toolkit that you need to be successful. But it's going to take discipline, it's going to take commitment, and it's going to take a level of emotional maturity and resilience to be successful in recruiting that many of your peers, quite frankly, can't even imagine, right? It's a tough job. So I'm certainly looking forward to seeing the success that every one of you are going to generate. Don't pay attention to the headwinds, right? Parents are going to ask you tough questions. They're going to ask you questions about sexual assault in the United States military, right? And I can tell you my answer for that. And I talked to some of the Georgia recruiters about this yesterday. Absolutely, sexual assault is a problem in our society. It's a problem in our military for sure. But no organization on planet Earth has as stringent a definition of sexual assault or is a stringent accountability mechanism for sexual assault as the United States military. And I'll give you an example. Go to any college campus in the United States. Y'all know what a good game is? Somebody slap you on the hip. Y'all seen that? Y'all heard that before? I'm not talking over your head, am I? I know everybody gets nervous when I start talking about this, but you need to be ready to answer these questions, right? Because you're going to be asked these questions, right? You good game somebody on a college campus, somebody may tell you to knock it off. You good game somebody in the United States military, you're going to get investigated, and if it gets substantiated, you're going to get fed to the wood chipper feet first, okay? We take that deadly serious. Now, you take a good game allegation to the local police, and they'll kind of look at you funny, right? We take it deadly serious in this organization. So when you see those sorts of things coming out in our society and defining the military as people that are not taking that serious, that is not true. And you don't need to shy away from saying it's not true, right? Because we're going to take care of people in our organization. We're going to make sure they get treated with dignity and respect. People will say, well, it's a dangerous profession. Military's a I'm worried, my baby may get hurt. And I always ask the same questions. I'm like, do you know how many people get killed in the bathtub in the United States of America every year? Anybody know? I know Georgia knows. I told them yesterday. About one a day. About one a day. You know how many people get killed in automobile accidents in the United States of America every year? Between 36 and 40,000. So my question back is, do you let your son or daughter or the individuals that you're influencing, right, do they drive automobiles and take a bath? Right? And the answer is always yes. Right? So they're a lot safer with us, right, than they are taking a bath or driving an automobile. Don't be afraid, right? Don't withdraw when people ask you those tough questions, but be ready. I know you've been trained to overcome objections, right? I know that, but I also know what it feels like when you get put on the spot by a parent. It's a tough job, but don't be afraid. This is not a product that you're selling. This is a profession that you're making available to young men and women that I think so many of them desperately need. One of the things that I can tell you in the state of Georgia, and it may be this way in your state, is the percentages of young men and women that take our ASVAB in high school today is, I'm ashamed of the low numbers in the state of Georgia with respect to even taking the test. We're at 12% in the state of Georgia. Now, we're the 5th largest contributor to recruits across the Joint Force, right? So I'm going on a little campaign to see if we can get a few more ASVABs in the high schools, because what you all are seeing are people that are 2 and 3 years removed from their last math class, taking the ASVAB and then having a hard time with it, and it becomes a barrier to service. Our job is to take down those barriers to service. That's what leaders need to be doing for you. That's what I'm going to be doing for my recruiters, right, in the state of Georgia, and I'm sure that's what your leadership is interested in doing in your state. Everybody, right, everybody is invested in your success. We are super, super proud of every one of you. And again, I'm humbled to be in the room with every one of you. I wish you all the very best of luck as you go out and take your places in our formation. Thank you for stepping up, right? Thank you for stepping up and taking on a job that you know, if you didn't know then, you know now, is the hardest, most accountable, and important job in the Army National Guard. God bless you all. God bless America. Thank y'all for letting me be here.
Sir, thank you for those inspiring words.